Since the military junta took control in Niger, France has strongly opposed it. France made various attempts to remove the military leader and reinstate its preferred candidate as president. However, the military junta in Niger has become even stronger, erasing any remaining French influence. France also sought the support of ECOWAS, Economic Community of West African States, to warn against military intervention if Niger did not end the military rule. Unfortunately for France, these efforts did not succeed. Now France has been caught in a conspiracy to attack Niger. It has requested airspace access from Algeria, Morocco, Nigeria, and Ghana to carry out a military intervention. Surprisingly, these countries did something unexpected, which disrupted France's entire plan. This turn of events has raised questions about how France intends to attack Niger and when it plans to do so. Among the former colonial powers, France stands out as the country that has maintained a strong presence in its former colonies, even after granting them independence. Unlike Britain, Portugal, and Spain, which severed their colonial ties and rejected systematic exploitation, France chose a different path. It continued to interfere in the affairs of its Francophone African countries, even handpicking their presidents. However, the situation has changed dramatically. Military leaders and coups have led to France being ousted from these countries. France can no longer benefit from the resources of these countries at cheaper rates or dictate their leadership. Despite these setbacks, France is determined to prevent African countries from achieving full independence. It engages with various countries and organizations like ECOWAS to reverse coups. One of the countries where France had significant exploitative advantages was Niger. With a military leader now in power, France finds it challenging to maintain those advantages. Consequently, France is resorting to threats and intimidation tactics to influence Niger's military leader. There are indications that France is preparing to launch an attack on Niger, possibly targeting the presidential palace where the former president, who was seen as a French puppet, is currently under house arrest. To carry out this operation, France needs the cooperation of neighboring countries to provide airspace for its forces and those of ECOWAS to land in Niger and intervene, similar to the situation in Iraq with Saddam Hussein. France initially requested Algeria to grant access to its airspace for the military operation in Niger. However, Algeria has rejected this request. The decision by Algeria comes in response to a coup that took place in Niger on July 26, which occurred near the Algerian border. Algeria firmly opposes any foreign military intervention in Niger and advocates for diplomatic efforts to restore constitutional order. It is worth noting that despite France announcing the withdrawal of its troops from Niger, there are still approximately 1,500 French troops stationed there. These troops were deployed before the recent coup and are expected to leave Niger in the coming months. The presence of these troops suggests the possibility of an attack on Niger, as they possess valuable intelligence regarding potential targets and timing. The fact that they were not immediately ordered to leave after the coup indicates that the plan for an attack on Niger is more than just a mere possibility. The specific military operation referred to by Algeria has not been publicly mentioned by France, and France has not officially stated any intention to militarily intervene to reverse the coup. However, ECOWAS has announced that it has set an undisclosed deadline for a potential military intervention if diplomatic efforts fail. In summary, there are signs that France is preparing for a military attack on Niger, but the specific details and intentions have not been publicly disclosed. Algeria has rejected France's request for airspace access, emphasizing the need for diplomatic solutions to restore stability in Niger. A military intervention in Niger could worsen the already unstable region, which is plagued by conflict and poverty. The African Union's Peace and Security Council swiftly responded by suspending Niger from all African Union activities. Algerian President Abdelmajid Tebboune had previously expressed concerns about a military response, emphasizing that it could escalate tensions across the Sahel region. Algeria is committed to avoiding the use of force with its neighboring countries, as it fears potential repercussions like an influx of migrants into its territory. Algeria and France have a history of strained relations, marked by disagreements on Sahel security, regional issues, historical disputes, and human rights concerns. When France faced obstacles with Algeria, it turned to ECOWAS as a means to reverse the coup in Niger. It is important to note that ECOWAS has been utilized by Western powers, primarily France, to advance French interests. However, using ECOWAS for military intervention in Niger could lead to a catastrophic outcome. It is essential to understand that ECOWAS is an economic alliance, not a military one, and it is not designed to forcibly reverse a coup. The maximum action it can take is imposing sanctions, which have already been implemented. Defense chiefs from ECOWAS have developed a plan for potential military action if the leaders of the coup in Niger fail to reinstate President Mohamed Bazoum by a specific deadline. This raises concerns about further conflict in a region already grappling with a deadly insurgency. General Abdourahmane Chiani, the leader of the coup, has stated that they will not back down. France has expressed strong support for ECOWAS' efforts to prevent the coup, but has not clarified whether this support includes direct military assistance for ECOWAS intervention in Niger. The proposed intervention plan by ECOWAS involves decisions made by the heads of state regarding when and where to take action, as well as resource allocation and deployment logistics. However, specific details and timelines have not been disclosed. ECOWAS has been engaging with Algeria and Libya to seek their support as key regional players ahead of any potential military action. Unfortunately, Algeria has refused to offer its airspace, limiting the options for ECOWAS. However, France is not the only country that wants the coup in Niger to be reversed. The United States has also announced the suspension of certain aid programs to Niger in response to the coup. This expands the possibilities for how an attack on Niger could be carried out, as the US has more allies in Africa than France. There are indications that Niger's military has accused France of amassing troops and equipment in several West African countries, alleging that it is part of preparations for a military intervention against Niger. This suggests a serious and possible attack on Niger shortly. Colonel Amadou Abdrahmane, a spokesperson for Niger's coup leaders, made claims on national television, alleging that France was deploying forces in ECOWAS member states in collaboration with the regional organization for potential aggression against Niger. According to Abdrahmane, French military cargo aircraft have been transporting significant quantities of war material and equipment to countries like Senegal, Ivory Coast, and Benin. These allegations come at a time of increased tensions between Niger and France following the military coup on July 26. It's worth noting that the United States has approximately 1,100 soldiers in Niger and has started relocating its troops from Niamey to the central city of Agadez as a precaution, as stated by the US Department of Defense. However, many believe that the initiative for a military operation in Niger is primarily led by France and Nigeria. France holds significant influence within the economic community of West African states and is the main driving force behind this idea. France's influence often operates discreetly, including leveraging sensitive information on ruling regimes in West Africa to further its interests. Niger receives more attention than Mali or Burkina Faso due to several factors. Firstly, it provides uranium to France, which is of strategic importance. Additionally, Niger holds a key support base for Western forces in the Sahel region, with 2 US military bases located in the country. France is encouraging Nigerian President Bola Tinubu to initiate an operation in Niger, which could serve his interests as well. Tinubu, who recently assumed office amid disputed election results, may attempt to divert attention from domestic issues by focusing on international matters, including the situation in neighboring Niger. However, A robust coalition consisting of multiple armies would be necessary for military intervention in Niger. Currently, ECOWAS lacks the required forces and capabilities for such an operation, potentially necessitating support from France or the United States. It is important to consider that a Nigerian intervention alone could be perceived as aggression and interference in Niger's internal affairs, as several other countries in the region have expressed opposition to military intervention. Furthermore, Nigerians themselves do not want Nigeria to play a role in reversing the coup. They do not wish to become involved in a conflict that is not theirs. Perhaps it is time for African countries to reject being used as tools and instruments by Western powers. If African countries strongly refuse to support the US and France in reversing the coup in Niger, the military leadership in Niger will remain unchanged. This is because the US and France cannot launch an operation on their own. The last time such an intervention occurred, it caused significant chaos in the Sahel, starting with the French and US military intervention in Libya in 2011, which led to the overthrow of Muammar Gaddafi and subsequent destabilization of the region. In addition to the previously mentioned developments, Russia has also become involved in the matter concerning Niger. Russia has issued a warning against military intervention in Niger, expressing concerns that such actions could result in a prolonged conflict that destabilizes the entire Sahel region. While Russia does not formally support the coup in Niger, it is cautious about the potential consequences of military intervention. Meanwhile, the United States, which supports efforts to reinstate deposed leader Mohamed Bazoum, has raised concerns about the Wagner mercenary group taking advantage of the instability in the region. However, the situation is straightforward. If the West does not want the Wagner group in Niger, they should refrain from any form of intervention in the country. Recent reports suggest that military officials from ECOWAS member countries are planning to meet and develop strategies for a potential military intervention. While ECOWAS is open to finding a diplomatic solution to the crisis, Nigerian President Bola Tinubu has emphasized that all options, including the use of force as a last resort, are being considered. The reports of ECOWAS military involvement in Niger, along with France's request for airspace, should be understood in the context of recent statements made by the coup leaders in Niger. They have accused the deposed government of authorizing a French military operation to rescue the ousted president Mohamed Bazoum. When considering all these events independently, it becomes apparent that plans for an attack on Niger are being formulated. France, which has been calling for the reinstatement of Mohamed Bazoum, seen as a key ally in the Sahel region, would likely not invade Niger if he is reinstated, since he is perceived as a French puppet. There is speculation about whether French forces have been authorized to carry out strikes, with indications that Paris may be hesitant to take action without US involvement. France currently has 1,500 troops and a military base equipped with attack drones and fighter jets in Niger, while the US has 1,000 troops on the ground and 2 drone bases. Experts suggest that both France and the US will proceed cautiously due to the level of anti-French and anti-Western sentiment in the Sahel region. There is a growing possibility of a military response from the ECOWAS in the Niger crisis. ECOWAS has threatened to use force if the military junta in Niger does not restore civilian power within 7 days. Bola Tinubu, Nigeria's new president and chair of ECOWAS, is determined to transform the bloc into a pro-democracy force. As a result, ECOWAS has also threatened measures like cutting off Niger's electricity supply, which mainly comes from Nigeria, and imposing sanctions on junta members, their families, and collaborating civil servants. Furthermore, the accusation that Niger's former government requested a French invasion of Niger has been confirmed by an advisor to Mohamed Bazoum, who spoke anonymously. The request was made shortly after the coup, indicating the government's realization that a coup had indeed taken place. The plan involved leveraging the presence of 1,500 French troops already stationed in Niger to attack the presidential palace and free Mohamed Bazoum. Tensions between the military administration in Niger, led by General Abdulrahman Chiani, and France have escalated significantly since the coup on July 26. France is now seriously considering the option of invading Niger. This situation stems from historical neocolonial relationships, where former French colonies continued to be exploited for their resources despite gaining independence. France faces a strategic dilemma. Allowing Niger to attain true independence would mean losing access to valuable natural resources, which have become increasingly important to France in recent times. However, France's military capabilities in the region have significantly diminished, with bases in Ivory Coast, Senegal, and Gabon that are not ideal for staging an invasion. Even if France manages to gather enough troops, logistical challenges arise. None of the three countries share a border with Niger, leaving Senegal and Ivory Coast as potential staging grounds. However, launching an invasion from these countries would require traversing Mali and Burkina Faso, both of which strongly oppose any military action against Niger. France is attempting to use ECOWAS, the US, and Nigerian troops to support its plans regarding Niger. However, Niger has taken steps to defend itself since the coup, forming a security pact with Mali and Burkina Faso. They have agreed that if any of these three countries are invaded, all their troops and militaries will come to their aid. This means that for France to invade Niger, they would need to contend not only with Niger's troops, but also with those of Burkina Faso and Mali. This is a daunting task as the combined forces of these countries, along with the support of Algeria, make it challenging for France. While Chad remains an option, reaching it poses difficulties. Niger's capital is strategically located in the southwestern corner of the country, providing it with an advantage. Even if neighboring countries do not intervene, Niger has a window of opportunity to resist an invasion. This creates a geopolitical catch-22 for France. Inaction could lead to revolts against Western neocolonialism in other parts of Africa, while intervention carries significant risks and challenges. France's NATO allies, including the United States, have been relatively quiet on the matter. The United States maintains a military base in Niger, but is unlikely to support a French invasion due to strained relations and limited operational capabilities. ECOWAS had set a deadline for Niger's military to relinquish power and reinstate President Mohamed Bazoum, who was detained in the coup. However, the deadline has passed without compliance, ruling out ECOWAS' threat of military intervention. The feasibility of a 7-day deadline for military intervention has been questioned, considering the lack of preparedness among ECOWAS states and the need for parliamentary approval. Military intervention is seen as a last resort for ECOWAS. The United States and France have been accused of pressuring ECOWAS to reinstate President Bazoum, whom they support. Efforts to engage with Niger's military leadership have faced challenges, and US troops in Niger have been restricted to their bases. While France may have been involved in making plans to attack Niger, an actual invasion is nearly impossible without the leadership of the ECOWAS army, which could lead to disastrous interventions similar to those in Libya, Iraq, and Afghanistan. It is uncertain whether France is strong enough to attack Niger and get away with it. Niger, with the support of Burkina Faso and Mali's militaries, presents a formidable challenge. It would not be wise for France to invade Niger and potentially trigger its downfall.